Welcome all to our Thanksgiving dinner feast. I'm so excited to present this workshop for you guys. So we're going to start off, of course, Thanksgiving with our dessert. So we actually went through and we have two different types of pie crust. We have a pre-baked one from the frozen section here, and then we also have a filament pie roll that you can get usually over in like the dairy section. These ones are two different baking instructions, so you want to look at the box or underneath the pie pin for these. We thought this would be a little bit easier if you've never baked a pie before. These are really simple ways of still trying to bake kind of a homemade pie and not having to buy from a store, especially because things start getting really scarce here towards the end of the holiday season whenever the Thanksgiving dinner is upon us. So these are great ways to make them home by yourself. We're going to make a cherry and a pumpkin pie today. So you want to go just start off with the crust. Either one is fine. I always spray if I'm using my own pan, especially for the pre-rolled. And then you always want to poke it with the fork like I did on the pre-baked crust. This will help the ventilation in the pie to make sure your pie is able to cook accordingly and that the crust doesn't have any like room not to be able to breathe. You still want it to be able to breathe. And then I pressed it down here, making sure it was all sent down, and stabbed this one as well, making sure that ventilation is in process for our pies. We're going to go through and bake these both. Like I said, they have both different baking instructions. Keep an eye on for that. Usually it's about 12-15 minutes baking pre-time before putting filling in. This is our pumpkin pie. You just want to scoop it out of the pumpkin pie jar, metal tin, whatever this is. And then you want to go through, and usually with pumpkin pie, the only required ingredient is going to be evaporated milk. So you're going to take your evaporated milk. I don't put it all in at once. I go pretty slow. I put about half of it in, and then I will hand mix it. Hand mixing is going to make a much smoother pie than trying to use a fork or a spoon and stirring it yourself. If you do have a hand mixer, I definitely advise using it. And then going through and making a pretty smooth puree. You can kind of see that I've gone through and added more and more. And then I go through and fill our pie tin. What you want to do at the end of filling your pie tin is make sure you bang it on the counter a little bit. This gets any air bubbles out and any cooking imperfections. If you leave air bubbles in there when the pie is actually baking, it can create this little air bubble blast and actually make your pie look really horrible looking, and we don't want that. I was a little fancy this time, and we added some nice little decorative accents. So I got this amazing pie cutter from Zurcher's, of all places, for $8. And I made this beautiful design that's going to both work for the cherry filling and for the pumpkin filling. Cherry filling already pre-cooked. All you got to do is pour that in there. I made this beautiful design. There's two different ones. So there's the actual cutouts, and then there's the whole design itself. I'm going to put the whole design on the top of the pumpkin pie just because I think it looks a little prettier. When you're setting it on the pumpkin pie, you want to be pretty gentle because it will sink if you mess with it too much. So once you lay it down, don't try to move that pie that much until you have it in the oven baking. I always get all of my pies done the night before. So that we kind of did that in this example right here. That way your oven is already being used the day of Thanksgiving and you don't want to bog it down more. So I'll go through and pre-cook my pies the night before and then be able to pop them in the oven about halfway through dinner just to warm them back up and have them ready to go, especially because pumpkin pie setting does help. Another little fancy gadget here is if you do have pies that are going to have a crust exposed, this is a pie crust protector. You can get it at Walmart. I got mine at Zurcher's for $10, but it goes through and protects your outer pie from being burnt. So that way you don't have to foil it. It's a little annoying to be able to do that. And then I popped both of the pies in the oven, cooked them. You'll see those in the finished result at the end. But beautiful, simple way of doing pie. You can do this with pretty much any filling. Being able to go through and produce that and have some beautiful pies ready for your dinner. Ray's very gentle, trying to put them in there. He didn't want the design to fall. And then we're going to move on to our green bean casserole. Our green bean casserole is going to have bacon in it. You, of course, if you do not eat bacon, do not have to add bacon in. We just found, as far as recipe goes, this actually brings quite a lot of flavor to the bacon. I air fry my bacon. I don't like it too crunchy. I still like it a little bit soft, especially going into a green bean casserole. I take 2 cans of green beans. I use French cut green beans. I don't know why, always tastes different to me if I do not. And then 1 can of cream of mushroom soup, and then pour that in there and kind of mix it all together. I use 2/3 of the fried onions and mix it into the mixing itself instead of just sprinkling it on top. I feel like this gives it more onion throughout the entire recipe when you're going through and eating it versus just having it sprinkled on top. And we're going to go ahead and mix it a little bit. Oh, forgot a cup of milk. Forgot that as well. There are substitutions as well that you can use instead of using milk. Some people choose to use water. I like my green bean casserole really thick and creamy, so I choose to use milk. Mixing it around there. We're going to pop the bacon out of the air fryer, and you want them pretty decent bite-sized pieces as far as the bacon goes. You don't want it too much when you're going to chomp in and getting a huge piece of bacon. So I'll cut mine here. We've sped it up a little bit, and I've chopped them into pretty small little pieces. And then mixing them all together in there, making sure you have a flat thing. I bang all of my dishes on the counter. I feel like it flattens it out and gives it a nice flat kind of presentation look, and then go through and sprinkle my onions all on top and make sure it's all covered and spread it out. I generally will make my green bean casserole also the night before, so all I have to do is pop it into the oven. Try to save myself stress and time the day before. Definitely is a game changer when it comes to the Thanksgiving holiday. This is it coming out of the oven. It's beautiful. 45 minutes. It was amazing, let me tell you. So we're going to move ahead to our turkey. So we're going to bake, and I'm going to do 350 starting and get that little puppy preheating. And then we're going to switch over to our rolls. So the rolls are yeast rolls, are the ones that we selected, dinner rolls. These can be found in the frozen section. You want to make sure for dinner rolls that you give them time to rise. I like to do mine the morning of. This is like kind of the first thing I do on Thanksgiving. I coat both of my dishes with that cooking oil spray so they don't stick. And then I roll mine in butter. I just find them to have an amazing flavor when doing so, but they're still in a frozen state. I just go through and put them all covered in that butter. And then I'm going to put foil over there and actually pop it on that oven that's preheating. This will give it the kind of warmth to be able to rise all throughout the day and have some nice, beautiful, big, fluffy rolls at the end. They are absolutely amazing, delicious, and great ways to kind of have some homemade type rolls at the setting instead of just the ones from the store. I like them a little bit more, but just kind of depending on you and what you're into. So we're going to go through and cover these with foil now. Like I said, I do this thing first thing. So before we even start really cooking the turkey, I will go through, or prepping the turkey, I will go through and get my rolls ready. It's pretty simple, but if you don't do it first, then you're going to get caught up with an hour before dinner and have to try to get rolls to rise. It just doesn't work out. So I always make sure I do the rolls first thing in the morning to give them enough time to rise and get to the big fluffy state. And we actually have a few clips where we go through and check their status throughout this cooking video. So excited to show you that. And I set them on top of the oven to help the rise from the temperature. Now back to this beautiful turkey. Our turkey is about 20 pounds. It was about $24 and 20 pounds. So a beautiful turkey. We're going to go ahead and open it up, and we're going to get all the nasty little turkey juice. I left this in my sink for about 2 days to de-thaw. You want to make sure that if you get a frozen turkey that you don't just get it the night before Thanksgiving and hope for the best. I always go to the store at least 2 to 3 days ahead of time to get the turkey, or keep it in the freezer and pull it out 2 to 3 days ahead of time. I wash my turkey off. I have bleached my sink before going through and putting my turkey in there. I don't just put turkey in random sink. So make sure you bleach your sink out, and kind of what I'm doing right now is checking the turkey. As you can see me pulling things out, there's pieces of feathers that can sometimes be stuck in your turkey. You don't want someone to come across that when they're eating. Inside of the neck piece, you'll find it's kind of hidden. You got to sometimes look for it. The giblets, a lot of people will use this in their gravy recipe. I'm not one of those people, but I know my father and my mother definitely do. They're from the South, so giblet gravy is just something in their nature. I go through, and once I'm done prepping my turkey, I put it in my roasting pan, get those nice wings tucked in there. And then I'm going to go through and just kind of pat dry my turkey. You, of course, don't have to do this. I just find it a lot easier when I go through and start prepping it. So I also have an entire bag of oranges and then 4 lemons that I'm going to be using to stuff my turkey. I cut them all up in about 1/2 inch slices. As you can see here, I'm using rosemary, Old Bay, and then also the Tony Romo like injectables. So I'm going to stuff my turkey full of the oranges and the lemons now and just stuff it in everywhere. I also stuff 1 package of rosemary inside of my turkey. This is a beautiful aroma that will be smelled throughout the house when you're cooking your turkey. And then there's these injectables. The Tony... It's not Tony. I don't remember what the last name is. I'll link it on here, but they're the Tony injectables. This gives turkey an amazing flavor. So I definitely recommend injecting your turkey. If you've never tried it before, try it out. It gives such flavor to your turkey. And if you kind of rub it in there, give your little turkey massage, it will disperse it throughout your entire turkey. You want to make sure you're sticking it in the deepest parts of the turkey to make sure all of the meat is being injected. I used about 3/4 of it. I'm actually going to use the other 1/4 here in a minute when we go through and check on our turkey while it's cooking. So inject that in. I like to squeeze my lemon and my orange over the turkey to give it a nice wet base for my Old Bay to be stuck on. This is just my preference. You guys are more than welcome to use whatever kind of flavor and seasoning works best for you and your family. I'm just an Old Bay girl. It's a southern thing, not quite sure. It's just always been something we've used when it comes to turkeys. I kind of go through and I will add a little bit more lemon and orange and kind of keep mixing. And then of course I lay rosemary on top. Like I'm saying, I'll show you guys in some of the videos where we check on the turkey. This is such an aromatic smell. It's beautiful. So we're going to go ahead and cover the turkey up. And then depending on what you have, I have a probe that actually plugs into my oven. Some people just use the straight up temperature gauges that you can stick in the turkey. Whatever you have works. You just want to make sure you're sticking it in the deepest part of the turkey. So as you can see, I stick it in the deepest part of my turkey. This one is super nifty. My oven comes with it. I just plug it into the side here and then be able to go through and hit this probe button on the outside of my oven. And it actually reads how hot the turkey is becoming, which is fantastic. So we also want to prepare some butter that we will use constantly on the turkey. This turkey I go through and it is being baked at 350 and it's generally 15 minutes per pound of turkey. So we're going to cook this bad boy for about 3 to 4 hours. Every 30 minutes I go through and put butter on him because I don't want my turkey to get dried out. Even with the foil covering, you want to make sure you're still moistening your turkey as you go on because you don't want a dry turkey. It's not good for anybody involved. So I make sure my turkey is nice and moist. Every 30 minutes I will go through and check on this turkey. And we've actually put all the turkey clips together. So you'll be able to see the progression of my turkey right now. But while the turkey is cooking still, I go through and do a bunch of different things. The first time I check on my turkey, I do go through and I use the injector and I inject my turkey with the rest of that injectin. Usually because within that first 30 minutes, the turkey will kind of settle in and then that space will ease up where I can inject some more and really get that flavor throughout my turkey. If you are checking on your turkey anywhere along the way and your foil rips or anything like that, you definitely want to go in there with some extra foil. Make sure nothing of the turkey is exposed. You can risk it drying out or that piece of the turkey really burning. You can see that little tip of my leg got poked through last time. So he's a little bit more brown than the rest of the turkey, but we covered that up this time and definitely saved it. I can't even tell you how amazing this turkey smelled throughout my entire house. I absolutely love making turkey, mainly just because of the smell of the turkey. But every 30 minutes, like I said, I went through and buttered my turkey. I don't have every single clip of me going through and doing that, but this is me just kind of checking in. And then my temperature, these are the rolls that are kind of starting to yeast up and pop up. This one, it's pretty much done with the time frame. It's about 160 right now. Temperature wise, you want to get to 175 to 185 depending on your oven and your cooking. So the last 10 degrees, I'm going to let this turkey roast. I want to put a nice butter layer on there so it has some roasting to be able to go through and do to make that turkey nice and crispy and nice and brown and beautiful. The rosemary, I do slide off here in a second. I don't think I videotaped that just because I want the turkey to be able to cook during that. But here is my beautiful bird. Ooh, that bird was so good. It was so juicy and so moist. You can see the rolls in the background completely puffed up, ready to go in the oven as well. I'm super excited, looking like Martha Stewart. But we're going to go ahead and turn to our stuffing. I'm Not lazy when it comes to stuffing, but I also just like to make my life as easy as possible because the oven's already being used and I want to try to limit oven use as much as possible. There is a recipe for a slow cooker stuffing and it is amazing. It tastes so good. So this is what I'm doing here. I mixed 2 eggs and 1/4 a cup of chicken broth. And then I'm going to go ahead and add my butter in there as well. It's 1 stick of butter. And then we're going to add the stuffing and just mix it all in. And then all I'm literally going to do is pop the crock pot closed and let that puppy do its damage for 2 hours. And then it'll be ready to go on high. Fantastic. We're also going to be doing cranberries, homemade cranberries. So we're using 2 bags of cranberries and 1 orange and 2 cups of sugar. It's generally a cup of sugar for every cranberry bag. We did 2 cranberry bags, and then salt and pepper to season. You want to go through and zest. If you don't have a zester, that's fine. Most general cheese graters have a zester on it. Go through and zest a good amount. I would say about 1/4 a cup. And then that's what your orange should look like. Put 1 cup of water per bag. So 2 cups of water in the cranberries and then mix the zest in there. And then you're going to go through. And once that's mixed in there, we usually put 1 cup of sugar to start with and then turn it on medium heat. And cranberries take a minute because they take a lot of time and effort and stirring. So this is kind of a time lapse sped up. I also go through and throughout this, every like 5 minutes, I'll go through and squeeze the lemon or the orange a little bit more to get that orange flavor. So good. But we've gone through and we're cooking it. Once it gets cooked down about halfway, we go through and add another cup of sugar. That's that 1 to 1 cup of bag to sugar ratio and water ratio. This is where it's going to help it get cooked down. I don't like putting it all at once just because it crystallizes a lot faster. But if you do it right here, perfect time and be able to go through and get that done. So we just mix cranberries. Once they are good and hot and all of them have mainly popped, I go through and pop them in a bowl and then put them in the fridge to cool down to serve later. So this is our green bean casserole getting popped in with our rolls. Oh, look how beautiful and fluffy those rolls are. And then we're going to work on potatoes. So flipping over to the potatoes, right here's nice carving them. These are homemade potatoes. I actually prefer instant potatoes. I'm not a very good Idahoan, but you can go through. Ray went through and skinned an entire bag of potatoes, and then we actually diced them and made them each potato. We probably did about 1/4 when it came to dicing and put them in a pot of boiling water. So Ray here, just cleaning them all up. I absolutely love a garbage disposal. It makes my life so much easier than having to try to do this over a trash can. I generally will make the potatoes about an hour before dinner starts, just to try to get them out of the way because boiling water does take a minute. They'll generally finish about 10 minutes before dinner is ready. But potatoes and gravy tend to be the last thing on my cooking for the day. So here we are. We cooked them. We're draining them. Put them over here. As you can tell, we cut them up. I use milk. I measure with my heart. If you really want to measure, it's usually about 2 to 3 cups at this stage. And then you can go back through and add a cup. Really depends on what you prefer as far as your potato consistency goes as well. So I smash them down with potato smasher first, and then I'm going to come in here with that hand blender again and really whip them up. I love using this dash garlic and herb without salt. I'm not a big fan of salt, so this is a great way to get that flavor without the sodium kind of suffering from it. So I go through, mash this up, about to pull out my hand blender and really get this all whipped up. Like I said, you can add more milk for more of a whipped look, or you can use less milk, just depending on what you would like out of your potatoes. I like pretty whipped and fluffy potatoes. So I'm going to just keep going until I like it and then put some more of that seasoning on. And then, of course, I use about a stick to a stick and a half of butter and then additional afterwards. Gravy is pretty simple. A lot of people do screw up, though, because at the beginning you want to use 1 cup of cold water per packet. It has to be cold water. That helps it dissolve into it so you're not getting clumpy gravy. A lot of people get clumpy gravy because they'll either put it on while the water's already heating up or boiling. That's going to cause clumps in your gravy. You want to do it when it's completely cold like this and then blend it all in and mix it and then turn the heat on and start heating that up. Gravy pretty temperamental. At the beginning, you only have to stir it once or twice every minute or two. And then towards the end, it's constant mixing. If you do not, you can risk burning it and then having little burnt chunks. So Lorenzo here really mixing it. He was doing that for about 20 minutes. We just sped it up and that is ready to go as well. So all of our items are baked and ready to be served up as well. We're going to have a beautiful representation here in a second of our dinner table. This is what the final product looks like. We got our pies, our rolls, our turkey, our stuffing, our potatoes, our gravy. Looks absolutely beautiful. I'm really into fancy place settings, so excuse me, but it looks absolutely beautiful. Look at that turkey. Ooh, Martha Stewart looking turkey. Good looking turkey. But this is our final Thanksgiving product. Everyone does Thanksgiving differently. We just wanted to show you guys what our basic Thanksgiving dinner looks like. A lot of people have never had Thanksgiving dinner before or made it themselves, but everyone can do it, and I wish you luck, and thank you so much.